So Bava Basra, Chav Gimel on a base. So Nipol Hanimsa, you have find a pigeon within 50 amos of a shoivach, which is a pigeon coop, where pigeons go. Rehu shel bal hashoivach, so that the owner of the dovecot owns this pigeon. Chutz mechamishem amma, if you find the pigeon outside of 50 amos, harehu shel moitzoy. So Gemara is going to explain that basically pigeons can only go 50 amos, and therefore if it's within the 50 amos, so therefore it came from the dovecote. If it's outside the 50 amos, it didn't come from the dovecote. Therefore, where did it come from? It came from a passerby. Passerby dropped the pigeon, and now he's gone. He's not here. It's a stam mitzia, and therefore you can just find it. Now, nimsa bein shnei shofkos. If you find the pigeon between two dovecotes. Karov lezeh shelo, karov lezeh shelo. If it's closer, if this pigeon is closer to this dovecot, then it's his. If the pigeon is closer to the other dovecot, then it's his. Mechsa mechsa shnehim yachlokun. If it's punked in the middle between the two dovecots, then you divide it up. So here's our goizel, our little baby pigeon, and here's our two dovecots. So if the pigeon is found near that guy, so he gets it. And if he's near this guy, he gets it. If it's in the middle, there's a nice little middle line, then you divide the pigeon 50-50. Seemingly fairly poshus stuff there. Okay, so Gemara says, Amar Rebbe Chanina, Roiv Akarav Holchan Achar Roiv. So when you have a Roiv, so Rashi here, Im Ba Davar Lefanenu, so you're the base din, something comes before you, and you can go achar haroiv v'hukach. So let's say you go after roiv, it's kosher. So we said about the pieces of meat in it's 9 kosher butchers, and the piece of meat is right outside the treif butcher. So you go after the roiv, and it will say that it's kosher. V'im telech boy achar hakarov einokach. You go after the karov, then it is treif because it's right outside the treif place. So what's the din halach bo achar haroiv? So therefore we have to go after the roiv. Afakav de Travehu deraisa, even though they're both deraisa. Roiva deraisa dechtev achrei rabban lahatos. So achrei rabban lahatos in Shemois there. So therefore that is the roiva go basar 2 dayanim over 1, even though 1 is saying it's not kosher, he doesn't owe the money, we go basar the roiv. The karuva deraisa dechtev hayayir karuva. So this is by the case of the egla rufa, that the korov to the city, they are the ones that have to bring the egla rufa. So we see both cases that the roiv is a din we use the raisa to be machriya, and the korov is a din that we're machriya. So how would they come together? So the korov, the ruba de raisa, the hoichen achar roiv. So we go after the roiv. Now, Ema Seifa. So the guy who finds in our Mishnah, whoever finds and keeps it, and if there's no other dovecots here, Vadai, it came from that guy. So B'madida is a case of where the pigeon can only go, it's the only little baby pigeon, so it can only go 50 amos. So it can't go more than 50 amos because it's only a baby pigeon. Tamar Ravaka Barchama Kol Madan Eimarina Yoter Mi Chamishim Amma. Natashama Nimsa Bein Shnei Shoifchis Karav Lezer Shelo Karav Lezer Shelo Yafogav Dechad Menayu Nafish Mei Chaverta. So if he's here and this guy has 100, make it bigger. So he's a bigger dovecot, and he's just a baby dovecot, and he's only a small one. So he's a small one, and he's a big one. So here, this pigeon is korov to the big one, and far from this one. And now he's korov to the small one, and far from the big one. So if we go basar roiv, so therefore the one on the left should get. If we go basar korov, the one on the right should get. And therefore, based on our din of korov the roiv cholchen achar roiv, therefore the guy on the left should get it. However, the Mishnah says that korov lezeh shelo, korov lezeh shelo. So the Mishnah says that this guy gets it because he's korov lezeh. So it's a kasha on the idea of the Rechochem Basar Rov, even though there's a din of Karov. This is what we're dealing with. We are both the same size. This has the same amount of pigeons as this. And it doesn't, if this was bigger, he'd get it. But since the only reason that we go Basar Koirev is because there's no difference in the size of the pigeonholes. So we should go after the Roiv of the world. Basically, any pigeon that's found ever will go according to the Roiv of the whole. Whoever's the biggest pigeon goat. If we're always going to go bust the Roiv forever, so therefore we should go according to the biggest dovecot in the world. So it says Hachab Ma'askinen in this Shvil Shel Kamarm. It's on the path of the vineyards. The Emisa the Baalma Ati. So since it's a madada, this pigeon, therefore it can only go a certain distance, and it wouldn't able to get there, and he's only going to go as far as he can see. So here we see in the case of the pigeons that basically with Gabos of the Roiv is that if this one has more pigeons than this one, therefore he gets it. Only when they're equal, that's the only case that the Mishnah is talking about, when they're equal. That when they're equal, he goes to this Dovka because he's closer, or he goes to this one if he's closer. Okay, so this is Trumas, 4th chapter, Mishnah 8. Rabbi Yeshua Oimer, you have black figs, malos es halavoina. So you have truma, and then you have mixtures of truma. So the black figs bring up the white ones, and the white ones malos the black ones. Igula devela. So igula devela is where you stick figs together and you make a circle out of them. The big ones malim makatana malim esagedolim. So if you have, so it's going to be Ketzad in the next Mishnah to explain the case. Igula malim esa malbinim. Malbinim malim esa Giulim, so that the square ones will work for the circles and the circles will work for the squares. Rabbi Yosef Aser, Rabbi Kiva Oimer B'Yadua Ma Nafla Ein Malazuadzu. So when you know what fell, it doesn't work, and when you don't know what fell, then it works. So Kate said, we have to see what this case is. How so? It's 50 black figs and 50 white figs. So you have a bag of 100 figs. And 150 of them are black and 50 of them are white, and fell into them some black figs. The black ones are aser and the white ones are matter. So when the black one fell in, which is the iser that fell in there, so then the black iser fell in, so therefore you know that the whites are matter. You know that the white figs are matter because a white iser didn't fall in, so that the black ones are aser. Because you've only got 50 black. If you had 100, then it wouldn't also them at all. But you don't have 100 black ones. You only got 50 black ones, and therefore the white ones can't help for the black one that fell in. Nafla levana solicitor's v'shokers maturus. So when the white one fell in, the white ones are also and the black ones are matur. Because the black can't help mevatel the white one. But when you don't know what fell in, so therefore there's 100 figs. And it worked for the one fig that fell in, and therefore the whole thing is chulin. So these are the other two cases we're going to need for the Rashash. Okay, so the Rabbi Kiva Eiger asked a question on the Mishnah. Im roiv anshe ir mesoin le kahuna harezeh tinasei le kahuna. So she's allowed to get married to the kahuna because roiv of the city are kosher. Says Rabbi Kiva Eiger kashali. If there's 21 kasherim and 20 noichrim, so the nochri will be possible for a Kohen. Nochri will not possible for a Jew. It will possible for a Kohen. So you have 21 kosher and 20 possible. So therefore she's kosher, right? So a Kohen can marry her because you got roiv kasherim. So therefore the Kohen can marry. But if a Kohen that comes to marry her knows by himself that he is not the one that had bia with her, so since he knows, so if he's from the city and then he comes to have bia with her. He knows he wasn't one of the ones that had bia with her. So by him, so we've gone from 21 kosher to 21 versus 20. He's one of the ksherim, and he's the Kohen, so therefore he wants to marry her. Everyone else is mutter anyway, because if they're not a Kohen, so therefore it's not possible, because it's roiv kosher by everyone else. To marry a Kohen, the Kohen now is from the city. He wants to marry. He's one of the 21. Klapi him is 2020. Therefore it's mechsa pusunim, and therefore it's aser leish. This woman is aser for him, because he's looking at a 50-50 ratio. So it's a kasha that the Rebbe Eiger is asking on the Mishnah, saying why is it's not true. It says that we can marry to the kahuna. That's not true, because the Kohen that comes from the city can't marry her. The Pasha says that the Kohen who can marry her, the Kohens in the city can marry her because roiv kosher. But saying that's not true. So you have to say when it says that most people are kosher, it means except for the person that is coming to marry her, and therefore has to be a case of 21 versus 20. When it's 21 versus 20, so then the Kohen, he is one of them, and he sees the roiv, and therefore it's 21 versus 20 when he takes himself out of it. So that's how you have to learn, says Rabbi Eiger. No, it's 22. He's saying the way you have to learn is 22 minus him is 21 versus 20. Yeah. So you agree with that? With Rabbi Eiger saying? Seems to make a lot of sense. Says the Rashash, but Mishnah, Imrav Anshim Rasoin, Katav ha. I'm not sure what that tav is. Rabbi Eiger. De Imhaya Derech Moshel. 51 kasherim and 50 pasulim. So we've got different girsa here. At 21 and 20, he's got 51 and 50. Ubeha 51, and in the 51 there was a Kohen. Echod asrelo, then she would be also to him. Yes, agreed. That's what Rabbi Eiger is saying. He didn't come on her imkain. Who eino bechlal safek. He is not part of the safek, since he's not part of the safek. V'lo nisharak mechse mechse. Therefore, from his eyes, if it's 51 versus 50, therefore take him out of the 51, therefore it's 50-50, and therefore it doesn't work. Now, Hine HaRavzal, so this is the Rashash now going on, Rabbi Eiger saying, in the Ravzal, Nira de midami leila hachtetana beperek dalad trumas. Chet and tet. So he's saying Rabbi Eiger is comparing our case to the case of the figs. And if we remember the case of the figs, that if we had 50 black and 50 white, if a black falls in, I know when I take the white for sure, the white is not one of the ones that fell in, because the black one fell in. So there, why is this case? Because what's going on with the black and the white? If the white, so the black one fell in, and now in my bag of figs, only the black ones are in the suffix. The white ones are not in the suffix. Since the white ones are not in the suffix, I have no doubt that none of the whites fell in. Therefore, we take them out of the suffix, and therefore it's not 100 versus 1 that fell in. It's 50 versus 1 that fell in. So therefore, what is for sure not in the suffix is not included in the suffix. Aval lenis daiti nira. According to me, it appears. The davkalein bittel lo mahani osin shenev klal suffix. So when we're talking, so we had 100. If we have one that falls into 100, it's mevatel. But if one falls into 50, it's not mevatel. We're talking about bittel. It doesn't help what is not in the suffix, because again the whites are not in the suffix, and therefore we can't use the whites to mevatel the black. Aval le'ini. We have a whole different thing here called the porish meruba porish. So we're killing with kol porish meruba porish mahani afilu oisin she'eno b'chlal ha suffix, that we can include even what's not in the suffix, we can include in the suffix. So what is his raya going to be? V'raya mi bava basra chav gemo amabeis gabe nimsa ben beis shoivchus. So we have that this pigeon that's found between the two dovecots. Now, what do we see there? Damrin Sham, because again, we're saying the kol porish meruba porish. So the din that we had is that this pigeon is called as poiresh. So we have the smaller dovecote over here, we have the bigger dovecote over here. So we said that the gobos of the roiv So therefore, even if the pigeon's here, this is korov and it's roiv. If the pigeon is here, this is roiv. So therefore, it goes back to this dovecot anyway, even though it's korov to this one, because this is the roiv, and this guy gets it. Why? Because we say kol porish meruba porish. This guy has 1,000,000 birds in it, and this guy has 10 birds in it. So it's more likely that this bird came out of this house rather than that house. That's the idea of kol porish meruba porish. It's more likely to have come from the bigger pile than the smaller pile. This has like a 1 in 10 chance of it coming from. This is 1 in 1,000,000. So therefore, it's more likely to have come from here. Is that a clear idea of what kol porish, how kol porish works? Because we're going to subvert everything now. So this is called a porish meruba porish, that since it's got lots of them, it's more likely it fell from this big pile rather than this small pile. So even though he's over here, he still goes back to this one. So that's how we learn kol porish meruba porish. V'harei b'hanisharayim b'hashoivach ein safek shehem vaday nisharim b'makoma. So behold, from those that are remaining in the shoivach, there's no safek that they for sure are in their place. And the safek is only on the one nimple that is found. And even though we say that it came from the roiv. Okay, so in our case of this pigeon. So this pigeon, this dovecot has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pigeons sitting there on top of their dovecot. Okay? And then this dovecot, I can't count how many there are. There's so many of them, and they're all flying around their dovecot. So this guy has lots of pigeons, and this guy has a few pigeons. So this guy is more likely to come from here rather than come from over here. Because here they've only got 5 guys, and here they've got hundreds. That's the idea. Now, this guy has 5. They're for sure in this dovecot. How many of these 5 are in the safek? Where do these 5 belong? All of them belong here. So we have no safek as to where these 5 belong. All these 100 here. Where do these 100 belong? How many of these 100 are in the safek? None. They are not in any safek because they're all in this dovecot. You only have a safek on one of them. Yet, we use this 100 to be machriya. Where does this dove go? This dove goes here because he's got 100 and he's got 5. Even though the safek is only on this pigeon. I don't know where this pigeon belongs. He belongs here. He belongs here. I don't know. We only have a safek on one of them. This 100 is not in the safek. These 5 are not in the safek. Yes, we use them in order to mevarer the kol porish meruba porish. So even though that these guys are not in the safek, we're still going to use them in order to be mevarer kol porish meruba porish. Therefore, so too by the Kohen, we don't take him out, even though the Kohen himself is not in the safek. I don't care. This whole 100 is not in the safek, and this 5 is not in the safek. We all know exactly where they belong. There's only one pigeon in the safek, and we use the 100 that are not in the safek in order to mevarer kol porish meruba porish. That's how the Rashash is learning the whole din of kol porish meruba porish, is that even though you're not in the safek, we still use you. But by bittul, if you're not in the safek, then we don't use you. That's the Rashash on the pigeons and how kol porish works. So you agree with the Rashash or you agree with Rabbi Akiva? You don't know. We agree with everybody. Everyone's wonderful. You don't like you think the Rashash is lying to you. He's proven it from the dovecots. How do you explain the dovecots? Based on again, you have a din of bittul. Bittul is like going bust your svara or whatever that you say. Well, this isn't in it, so therefore you have, and you see that by that the white figs they're not in the safek, so therefore they can't help to make the truma fig turn into chulin or whatever. So. But here by the dovecot, the kol porish meruba porish is not in the safek. Since they're not in the safek, we still use them. So this Kohen's not in the safek. I don't care. It's still called kol porish. The fima shekasav, based on what I've said, haya nirali de'im bechanus achos kashera hayu 40 pieces of square meat and 10 triangle meats. So one shop is kosher, and it has 50 pieces of meat, 40 square and 10 triangle. And in the Chanut HaTreifa, and in the Treif one, so there's 2 shops, Lo hayele 20 hatichot. It's only got 20 pieces of meat. V'chulan mishuleshes. And all of them are triangle. Now if you find a piece of square, it's not roiv, it's kol. They're all kosher. Everything in the city at square is kosher. But when it comes to triangles, you've got 10 triangles and 10 kosher triangles and 20 non-kosher triangles. V'nimsa chatika mishuleshes kashera. So if you find a triangle, how are we danning on this din? Of the triangles, the roiv of them are treif, and of pieces of meat, roiv of them are kosher. So the way that he's learning is that even though the squares are not in the safek, we still count them as kol purish, muba purish, and therefore we come out with that as kosher. Whereas the chayra, the hashkifa rishayna at least would be that if you have these are only selling triangles, and these are only selling the treif. If you got 20 treif triangles and 10 kosher triangles, I don't care about the 40 squares. We go busser triangles, we go busser meat. Now, what if? So again, the svara is that the 40 pieces that are square are not in the safek, but they're still in the din of kol push muba push, and therefore I see this triangle, and therefore I say it's from the roiv, which is kosher meat. Now, where does this stop? What if you have the treif place also sells 1,000 pieces of pig every day, and then you find a triangle piece of beef? Is that still kosher? Or you say that no, the pigs are not in the safek, but they're part of kol purish? And then what if like Walmart sells 3,000 salads a day, and you find a piece of meat? Is that included? And what if Walmart sells, it's the same shop that's selling the meat, they're also selling clothes, and they sell 500 pieces of underwear a day, and you find a piece of meat? Does that come into the safek? So where exactly you join the line here of that? Well, even though it's not in the safek, therefore I can't. And here l'chayr, it's really the same thing. The piece of meat is cut into square, and the piece of meat is cut in triangles. It's the same thing. It can be the same cow and the same piece of meat, whatever. It's just the same thing how you're cutting it. So there, maybe you'll go over it. You'll go busser the meat anyway, because it's not to do with shapes. Now he fills it off with David Zertzarch Iyun Talmud, so that even though this is how he is like poskin, this is how it appears in Svara, but like before you poskin anything, you got to like really think about it, and before you're poskin, ve'ein kan mokum laharich, and this isn't the place to. I don't know exactly where is the place to go along on this, but apparently this isn't the place. So we have a look at the Chavas Das. So Dihine B'teisha Chaniyos B'mokum Da'azlin Bosa Ruiva. So we said we have in our Gemara that in the shops, in the 9 shops, we go Bosa the Roiv. Now, Azlin and Bosa Roiv Hamoicherim V'lo Bosa Roiv HaBosa. So he's saying that we go after the Chavas. Again, it's a Maklokas on this, so he's like koile the whole. A lot of sheets. The whole way is that we go by the places and not by the pieces of meat. So I would think again, if you have McDonald's, which sells a hell of a lot more than burgers than Burger Ranch or something, or McDavid's or whatever they called it in New York, then the one McDonald's will sell so much more meat. You have 2 McDavid's, so therefore we're going to say that all meat in the town is kosher. In the Chayr, you go after the bosser. What's the pastures? You go after the boss, or you go after how many shops there are? I'd say the pastures is the boss. He says no. We go boss the roiv moichrim v'lo boss roiv bosser. V'filu ike b'chanos hanevela harbe bosser uvenela yoter mimash yesh bosser kosher b'chol tesha chanius. Even though that like the one treif. Now again, you'll have this easily in like a Walmart style place that will sell far more meat than all your little kosher butchers, and you'll have also as kind of the non-Jews become more centralized, and that one Walmart will do like a whole metropolis, and then you'll have the Jews have all the little butchers or whatever, and they each won't go to their own little guy. You can have lots of kosher shops and one Walmart that sells far more than all the kosher shops put together. So if you hacking kosher, that's in basar roiv moichrin. Now in the Binas Adam, the Binas Adam is like notes on the Chachmas Adam, which is the Chayei Adam that's on Yeridea. So again, he's like there is the Aruch Shulchan on Yeridea, and then there's also the Chachmas Adam on Yeridea. But because there's no Mishnah Berurah, he doesn't get a say when it comes to poskening those shaylas. So the Chachmas Adam has a lot more weight in Psak and Yeridea stuff. Adol Azim Basar Roiv Basar Dim Kain. So he says that if you matzah Aveda Be'ir Sheruba Yisrael, so you got most people are Jews, and you find an Aveda. Lama Chayv, he's quoting this in the name of the Chavos Das. I didn't see it in the Chavos Das I was looking at. Maybe he says it's somewhere else. But he said like this is a proof for why we go after Basar shops and not Basar meat. Because so you find an Aveda in a city that most of them are Jews. Why are you chayiv to hachriz it? Hooray, that the goyim are richer. This must have been a long time ago, because today obviously the Jews are richer than the goyim. But in his time, you had the goyim that were richer than the Jews. Even though there were less goyim, the goyim were richer. Ayin sham hine gavra chazina v'tiyufta lo chazina. He sold the question. So he's saying that since that the goyim are richer, we if you go basher the money, then you'll say that it came from a goy, since the goys have more money, and therefore you'll never have to be machriz in a Veda, because you go basher the roiv, even though the most people there are Jewish. So he says, Atu ima nochri choylech b'shuk lokech ma'asov v'kli tashmishu biyado. So you have a guy. So even though you have all the goyim, if you have a rich goy, he doesn't walk around the city carrying all his money. In which case, this thing that's separated from him would then go bust and roiv money in the city belonging to the goyim, because he'd have to bring all the money with him in order. And again, this kind of would fit back into, well, even though it's not in the suffix, it's still called a purish purish. You have to see who fits like who. Does the Binas Adam like Rabbi Kiva, or he's like the Rashash, yeah. So Chayra so this is his terrace of the Chavos Das. So he doesn't hold of what's not in the suffix. So here the Binas Adam is going like Rabbi Kiva. V'od bishlema b'shkalim she'anu dinim al amos imhu ma'isa v'kin kana basar she'anu dim im hem treifa. So when you have the money, you have to say if it's the money or is the basar kosher or not. We go after the roiv mos or the basar. So over there we talk about an Aveda who owns the Aveda. So I don't go after roiv money. I go after roiv people, because who do I have to machriz it? So he's going to flip in the shaila, saying who do I have to machriz it, not who did it come from. But again, it's like it's a kol. We're saying again, according to we're saying that kol haparish meruba parish. I don't even care. I don't even care if the goy leaves all his money in the safe, because what's not in the safek doesn't. So like the Chavos Das is going like the Rashash, and the Binas Adam is going like Rabbi Kiva. It seems to be saying here that I found him, and seeing him was like seeing like a god or an angel or whatever, and I gave all this before him, and he didn't answer me. I think that's what he's saying here, but I don't know. I have a few answers. I don't know. Nearly to Azlin and Basar Roiv Basar. So therefore says the Binas Adam, we go Basar Roiv Basar. So he's explaining the mission like this. If we go after the Roiv Tavchi, who would like the butchers, so if we go after most, Mistama, the butchers are kind of selling the most amount or whatever, and then you have it's kind of rare to have a McDonald's kind of company or a Walmart that are just so big. It's rare to have that. So therefore, mistama, we could bust the 9 shops or whatever, as opposed to the oila mazrin achar roiv bosser the adayin hadavar tzarech talmud. So again, when they're when there's what to argue on them or whatever, or they're taking a position against all the gedolim, then you put the end tzarech talmud. Let's be careful before poskening on this. But there's if you find the meat, it's not so clear according to the binas. It's very easy to count how many butchers are there in town. But to count how many pieces of meat are everywhere, we go basar, roiv basar. I don't know how easy that is. Now, Shari Ashur, he claims that this is all Pasha what he's going to say. He's going to say against the Binas Adam and say that you go basar the shops, and he says this is all how it works, but no one explains it, so I'm going to explain it. But now the Shari Ashur, again in our dins of Kavua, don't forget he holds that there is no din of roiv when you have a kavua, and that we had a machlokas before. What does a kavua mean? Kavua means there is a roiv we can't use, or there's no roiv. So Shari Asher again is Shimon Shkop. He says there is no roiv. So what we explained before, it doesn't help that we had done an avid porish min kavua. So if something's coming out from the kavua, im dorish lasod haroiv alidei devarim hakavum. So he says you can't have something coming out of something that comes out of the roiv that's a kavua. You can't call that porish min roiv. It's called porish min kavua. Him mispah haroiv sha anu boim lachashov him midavar kavua. We're trying to work out it's porish min roiv, but they're kavua. Ledu lachshov kemechsa mechsa memela leg karoiv. So when you call so again, this is the shittas of the sharoisha that coming from a davar that's a kavua roiv is no roiv. It's not called porish min roiv. Umitam zeh katavnu dahar demahani benifresh echad min hakavua. If something gets separated from the kavua, hu misham de beoifin kazeh yishlan toyrus roiv misog acher. We have to have a different reason. V'hu roiv sheba alidei cheshbon roiv from mekarim. So when we're talking about called a porish min roiv, it's roiv mikra. How many times could this happen? It's not coming from a roiv of a pile of stones or something like that. Because then it could be, if it's kavua, then it's 50-50. It's coming from a roiv of mikras. Hayinu de basar hanimsa b'shuk anu chashvin b'ki hagavna roiv alidei mikra shalifanim. So you have again our cases of 9 butcher shops and 1 treif. We're working out how many ways can meat find its way onto the street. She'efsher lehefrish behabasar misham. V'hine yesh lanu 9 oifanim shebe'efshel habasher kosher, v'oifin echad shebasher hu treifa. So we have like 10 stories. A piece of meat left the shop and found its way onto the street. We have that story repeated 10 times. Of those 10 stories, how many of those stories are kosher? How many of those stories are treif? So we have 9 kosher stories and one treif story. So I don't even care if Walmart sells 1 million pieces of meat. There's 1 piece of meat we found here. Now that 1 piece of meat, tell me all the different ways that 1 piece of meat, well, a piece of meat could have come from Walmart, or it could have come from kosher store A, or kosher store B, or kosher store B, C. So we have so many more oifanim ways that this 1 piece of meat could find its way onto the street. So when we talk about this, there's no rad, it doesn't reduce us at all. The cheshbon of the 9 that have the basar shchuta lemisbar haroiv afshehem kavuim u'kameksa al mechsa chashuvim. So even though that the meat in the shops it's kavua, the whole shad is kavua. Once the meat's in the shop, it's kavua. So we should say it's been porish min kavua. Say no, I don't care about that. It is porish min kavua, but we're just discussing the chances of this story happening. There was meat in a butcher shop and it found its way onto the street. We have 9 chances of that being kosher and 1 chance of that being treif. Kevin she anu danim al oifen haperisha. Oifen haperisha is ein tuli klal in nifresh midavar kavua or midavar shehu nayat. So it doesn't really matter if it's like a butcher shop or if it's a because it could be, let's say, in like a, what are they called, the food courts. It's unclear where exactly the kashrus here or something like that. It's unclear even if you're in the food court. as to what the kashrus says. The Rashash anu danim al atzmus devarim that are mixed in with each other. We're trying to work out the piece of meat itself. He's saying we don't care about the piece of meat itself. We're looking at the piece of meat itself and it's mixed in with all that. That's the mispar roiv or mispar amir. In that way, we say the Torah is the mispar amir who shokol. That's the kavua against the mispar of roiv of the mir. But when we're on it down on the mikra noidlim, so these occurrences that happened to lo shaykh behem inyan kavias as linin la oilam basar roiv. So does that kind of connect to what he's doing there? Again, we answered this question differently before with the different perushim of things like there is a roiv, but we just don't hold by it, and therefore when we're dialing on the kavua, we can't. But something that comes out of it, there's still a roiv there. But he doesn't hold it. He holds there is no roiv, so he comes out with this idea. So therefore, the Shor Yosher is also going to go. The Shor Yosher is also going to go after the shops because he's daning a whole different way. He doesn't care about however many pieces of meat you have. And then he finishes it off. V'zehu yisoid ha'ikari b'din kavua. So this is a ikar sod. Again, this is only according to his shita. This isn't like a klal in all kavua. How he's learning kavua as we saw before. So that's how it works. In Perish v'aftahu poshut linin dazti. So this is posh according to me. So since it's posh, I didn't really need to say it. But the Mefarshim didn't explain this. So therefore I had to come. Al kain harachnu kitzat b'yesod zeh shehu mafteach harishon b'din perush. That's your first key into Poirish and Kavua. So that's where we end it.